Amish sisters disappeared in 1995. 9 years later, their wagon discoveries haunt us forever. It was a crisp autumn morning in 1995 when the unthinkable happened. Two young Amish sisters, Sarah and Rachel, vanished without a trace. Their laughter echoed through the quiet lanes of Lancaster County. One moment, and the next, it fell silent. Neighbors searched frantically, their eyes wide with fear, as rumors spiraled out of control. People whispered about dark forces lurking in shadowy corners, about the land itself holding secrets. Parents locked their doors tighter that night, children huddled close, terrified by tales of strange lights in the sky and rustling in the woods. Panic took hold like a dense fog, choking the life from the vibrant, close-knit community. Fast forward to 2004. 9 agonizing years had rolled by, marked with hope turning into desperation. Then, when the world had almost forgotten, a wagon creaked back into town. But this was no ordinary wagon, it was willowbark crafted, intricate and haunting, like a relic from another time. The sight stirred a mix of nostalgia and dread among the townsfolk. Its arrival felt almost like a ghost stepping back into the lives of the living, calling forth memories best left buried. As people gathered, tension hung in the air. They watched in disbelief as the local sheriff opened the back of the wagon. To their horror, inside lay items that made their blood run cold, a tattered blanket, a child's shoe, and, most disturbingly, a diary with faded pages that trembled in the breeze like a whisper from the past, each word a potential clue, each line a promise of revelations yet to unfurl. What had happened to the sisters? What darkness had hidden their story away for so long? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crowd gasped, murmurs swelling like waves against the shore. Old Mrs. Miller fainted, her face pale as a sheet, grasping at the air as she remembered the sisters' bright smiles from years ago. The weight of dread settled over everyone. The sheriff's furrowed brow deepened as he read through the diary, his lips tightening, revealing a thread of fear beneath his authority. Had they uncovered a treasure or a curse? The air tingled with anticipation. What discoveries awaited them next? What shadows loomed in the depth of their hearts that this wagon had just dragged back into their lives? But then, something caught the sheriff's eye, a name, scrawled angrily in the margins. It felt like a lightning bolt to the crowd, igniting a firestorm of curiosity. Who was this mystery person? What role did they play in the tragic disappearance of 2 innocent girls? As the scribbled letters sat heavy in the air, a chilling thought crossed everyone's minds. What if the search for answers led them to even darker path? A single, faltering breath broke the silence, throbbing with a question that hung like a dark cloud. Could the sisters be alive? And if so, where were they now? The mystery of their fate loomed larger than, leaving everyone aching for closure yet shivering in fear of what that closure might reveal. The sheriff's hands shook as he traced the name in the diary's yellowed margins, Jacob Miller. The name echoed like thunder among the crowd. Old Mrs. Miller's eyes widened in recognition, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "That's my son!" she cried, her voice a fragile whisper breaking through the murmur. Confusion rippled through the gathered townsfolk. Jacob had always been a quiet boy, well-liked and even a bit shy. What could he possibly have to do with the disappearance of the sisters? Was he a victim too, or something far worse? Jacob had a way with the girls, Mrs. Miller continued, her gaze turning distant. They spent a lot of time together. But he's been missing for years, just like them. A palpable tension filled the air as questions crashed against one another. Where had Jacob gone? Did his disappearance relate to the sisters? The sheriff's frown deepened, the weight of lost time pressing heavily against his chest. He felt it in his bones something unholy was binding this tragedy together. As he handed the diary to a deputy, more people pushed their way through the crowd, desperate to catch glimpses of the haunting relics. Eyes darted around, suspicion bubbling just beneath the surface. Did anyone question him back then? Someone shouted from the back of the throng. Of course. The sheriff snapped, his voice rising. But we were all so blinded by fear, no one thought he could have anything to do with it. Anguished rustling surged through the crowd, questions mixed with screams. Panic began to claw at hearts. Just then, a chill wind whisked through the gathering, blowing open the old gates of memory. Thunder rolled overhead, shaking the earth beneath their feet. Dark clouds swirled, as if nature mirrored their turmoil. The women clutched their children closer, while men bristled with unease, eyes hardening with rage and fear. Could Jacob's disappearance trap them in a cycle? What if their fear had blinded them to the truth for years? Voices shot through the crowd, accusing whispers igniting the tension like kindling. Someone had to pay, and with every second that slipped away, anger flared in the hearts of the townsfolk. The sheriff remained calm, shaking his head as he tried to gather the fragments of logic. They needed facts, not hysteria. We must hold off on making accusations, he called out. But in the rising storm of emotion, simple words struggled to rise above the chaos. A sudden shriek pierced the air, carving through the collective dread. Look! Over there! Someone pointed toward the tree line bordering the field where the wagon stood, its ghostly presence appearing even more sinister in the dimming light. Shadows danced at the edge of darkness, and silhouettes emerged, weaving through the trees. Faces contorted with anxiety, their eyes straining to pierce the veil of shadows cloaking the figures. Was it the elusive Jacob? Was he alive? The crowd backed away, fear root deep in their chests, but the sheriff stepped forward, his heart pounding. Stay here. I'll check it out. He moved cautiously but resolutely toward the encroaching gloom. Each step felt like a threat to the very fabric of the town, but just as he reached the tree line, the figures dissolved into the dark, disappearing like wraiths into the night. The air filled with an emptiness that dripped with unspoken horrors, and all eyes turned to the sheriff, hearts beating in unison, dread suffocating them. What had he stumbled upon? What fate awaited them in the secrets of the coming night? As he called out, his voice swallowed by the darkness, everyone wondered just what truths lay hidden, waiting to unearth their past, and would they be ready for what came next? The darkness crowding the tree line felt alive, pulsating with restless energy. The sheriff's heart raced, the steady rhythm thundering in his ears. He hesitated, straining to hear anything emerge from the other side. The crowd whispered nervously, every moment stretching into an eternity. What was that? A voice murmured, trembling. They exchanged fearful glances, unsure if the answer would bring comfort or dread. A rustle came from the underbrush, sharp and sudden, breaking the silence like a crack of thunder. The sheriff's breath caught in his throat, anticipation gripping him. Hello. Who is there? He called, his voice firm despite the fear coiling tight within. Another rustle. This time, a figure stepped forward, slowly, cautiously. It was small, huddling against the shadows as if the night itself wanted to swallow it. The sheriff squinted, trying to make out the features. His gut twisted. It was a girl, a young girl, no older than 12, and she was trembling, her clothes ragged and dirty. As she drew closer, the townsfolk gasped. That's one of the sisters. Someone shouted, pointing a shaking finger. The sheriff felt the blood drain from his face as memories flooded back. Agnes, the youngest Miller sister, was once a bright-eyed girl full of dreams, known for laughter that echoed through the fields. Now, she looked utterly hollow. Her eyes, once vibrant with life, were now sunken, glassy, filled with terror. Agnes! Mrs. Miller wailed, breaking loose from the crowd and rushing forward, arms extended as if she could bridge the years lost in an instant, but Agnes recoiled, eyes wide, darting around in a panic. No! Stay back! She screamed, her voice slicing through the air. You don't understand. He is coming back. Silence enveloped them, a heavy blanket of confusion. The sheriff felt every eye upon him, every heart thumping with fear, and in that moment, he understood the weight of her words. Who is coming back, Agnes? He pressed gently, hoping to coax the answer from the frightened girl. A shadow crossed her face. Jacob, he is not how you think he is. You have to run. Panic laced her words. He needs the others. The crowd gasped collectively, confusion spiraling into renewed horror. The sheriff felt a knot of dread settle in his stomach. What do you mean? Where are the others? Agnes, please. But before she could respond, a frenzied outburst arose from the crowd. Jacob's back. He was never gone. I'm not. I'm not. Agnes shrieked, her arms flailing. You don't know what you're doing. He is coming for you all. The sheriff glanced back at the townsfolk, frantic murmurs ricocheting between them. Fear morphed into outrage. Get her out of here. She is just a scared girl. Someone shouted angrily. Others agreed, wanting to dismiss the truth laced in her panic, seeking answers, but something deep inside urged him to listen. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end as the shadows obscured by the trees flickered and writhed. Agnes, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, you have to tell us how to help you. We're not your enemies. Help us, she whispered, her voice barely a breath, but just then, a loud crack echoed through the darkness. A branch snapped, and from the tree lean emerged another figure, tall and looming, obscured by tendrils of night. A collective gasp rose in the air, and the sheriff's heart thundered, each beat like a drum signaling the arrival of something monstrous. The figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face twisted by shadows. Jacob. The sheriff felt his gut lurch. What had he uncovered? What truths lay tangled in this dark return? Would the blood on their hands fall into madness, or would the past finally reclaim its secrets? It was clear the storm had only just begun. The figure of Jacob loomed larger, stepping into the flickering light of the lanterns. His mouth curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes, making him unnervingly hollow, just like Agnes. Whispers erupted from the crowd, faces paling, eyes shifting in terror. Some turned to flee, while others remained frozen, caught in the tangled web of the past and present. Jacob, the sheriff breathed, trying to steady his voice against the tide of fear. What have you done? His question seemed to hang in the air, heavy with both accusation and desperation. Jacob looked down, eyes narrowing into slits, and then back up, the smile fading and revealing a grim seriousness. It's not what you think, Sheriff. I'm back to right what was wrong. Agnes shrieked, no. You don't know what he wants. It's too late, he needs blood. Her voice shattered like glass, slicing through the murmurs of the crowd. The sheriff's heart raced. Blood? What did she mean? He felt a sickening twist in his gut as he glanced at Jacob, who now stood still, a ripple of discontent passing through the crowd like a cold breeze. Blood? He pressed, his voice seeking clarity amidst the chaos. Whose blood, Agnes? Everyone's. She shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. He's calling them back from the dead. You don't get it. He's got a hunger, and once he starts. The wind howled through the trees, a chilling harmony that seemed to echo her words. Jacob leaned forward, his gaze locking onto the sheriff. You have to understand the price of peace. If I don't reclaim what was taken from us, the darkness will consume everything. What are you talking about? The sheriff demanded, taking a step back, shaking his head. You're not making sense. But Jacob was unfazed, stepping closer into the light as shadows clung to him. I took care of them, he said, sneering, the ones who hurt the sisters. The ones who laughed when they disappeared. Now it's your turn. Waves of fear washed over the crowd. Muffled gasps and whimpers echoed into the night. The sheriff clenched his fists, each heartbeat pounding louder than the last. You don't have to do this. No. Jacob's tone turned chillingly calm. You think you can bury the past? You think I want this? It's what they want. The earth hungers, Sheriff. The earth remembers their screams. Agnes cried out, panic rising with every word dripped from Jacob's lips. He is lying. He is not Jacob. He is something else now. He has been hollowed out. Please, Sheriff, you've got to get everyone away. The sheriff was torn, wanting to reach out to Agnes, wanting to run from Jacob. The air thickened with rage and despair, confusion gripping the townsfolk like a vice. They shifted, looking to him for answers, their faces drawn tight with fear of what had come back, and what it demanded. Suddenly, a sickening snap echoed from the tree-line. A figure charged forward, bounding in the shadows, joined by others just outside visibility. They moved like phantoms, hungry, restless. The crowd stumbled back, screams erupting as the ethereal forms drew nearer. Run! The sheriff yelled, but the order drowned in the chaos of rising panic. He turned back to Jacob, who now wore a victorious grin, the shadows swirling at his feet. Whatever bond existed between them had shattered. Your time is up, Sheriff. Time to face the reckoning for all that was lost. Within a heartbeat, Jacob surged towards him, a monster unleashed. The sheriff braced himself, but time felt frozen, caught in the grip of swirling dread. The darkness felt alive, hungry. What truth lay beneath the surface of their secrets, and who would be sacrificed to finally quell the horrors? The crowd erupted into chaos as the figures emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted and contorted, haunted by a promise of vengeance. The air crackled with electric tension, a living entity that urged them to flee. Not again. Don't let them take us. Someone shrieked, their voice cracking under the weight of fear. Sheriff! Agnes screamed, her eyes wide with a desperation that reached into the marrow of his bones. You can't let them have us. But as he turned to face her, the panic gripped him like a vice. Jacob had transformed, more monster than man, his essence darkened by malevolence. Behind him, the lurking figures began to creep out, their movements exaggerated, gliding toward the lantern light like fading memories of what once was. They were sisters. The ones whose laughter haunted this town, reduced to mere whispers in the wind. Haunted eyes locked onto the sheriff, seeking the justice they craved. You let them take us. One of them moaned, her voice like ashes blown across a barren field. Agnes! He shouted, seeking the one beacon of clarity amid the chaos. You have to tell me what to do. We have to find the hearts, she gasped between breaths, eyes darting to the shadows. That's the only way to end it. He needs them to bring them back. Jacob's laughter sliced through the air, cold and mocking. You can't stop this, Sheriff. It's already set in motion. Their cries echo from the depths. You should have listened when you had the chance. The sheriff felt his resolve waver. The sisters, driven by their hunger for revenge, were circling him, their hands reaching, fingers clawing at the air. I can't let this happen. He roared, pushing through the throngs of bodies that pressed around him, heart thundering in his chest. As they moved, the ground trembled. The air grew thick, suffocating as it reverberated with gasps of the townsfolk. Someone fell, knocking against the sheriff's leg, a boy no more than 10, eyes wide with terror. Help! He whimpered. Stay close. The sheriff barked, feeling the weight of 1,000 fears pressing upon him. He reached for Agnes, pulling her toward him, but Jacob stood firm, an immovable force ready to wreak havoc. With a quick glance, the sheriff searched for an escape, but the figures were closing in, twisting the very essence of reality as they approached. The lanterns flickered ominously. Do you really think you can fight against the dead? Jacob taunted, stepping closer, a predator relishing the hunt. You've always buried the truth beneath layers of lies. Now, they've risen to claim their reckoning. A booming roar erupted from the tree-line, piercing the air as the phantoms surged forward like a wave of darkness. The sheriff knew what he had to do. "No!" he shouted, grabbing Agnes' arm. "We need to get to the barn. It has the heart. Then let us go," she urged, determination igniting her voice. They pushed toward the barn, urgency demanding each step as dread coiled around their legs. But ominous laughter filled the air behind them, wrapping around their necks like a noose. The world around them twisted, shadows whispering, "You cannot escape the past." As they neared the barn, the sheriff felt an icy hand on his shoulder, spinning him around. It was a sister, her gaze pleading yet fierce. "Face the truth, sheriff. Faces will come for their blood." "What truth?" he yelled above the din, desperation clawing at his throat. Before she could answer, a swirling vortex of shadows burst forth, engulfing his vision in darkness. With a single, piercing scream from Agnes that echoed through the chilling landscape, he realized that what he feared the most was no longer the shadows, but the truth nestled in the depths of his own heart. What price must he pay to unearth the past, and at what cost would the living find peace among the restless dead? The world slipped away as darkness swallowed the sheriff whole. In that moment of blinding blackness, he felt an electric surge crank through him, a jolt of terror mixed with a desperate need for clarity. Around him, voices echoed, disembodied and pleading, weaving in and out of his consciousness. "Help us!" one voice, sweet yet chilling, danced in the air, sending shivers marching down his spine. Was it one of the sisters? Their gaze, hollow and relentless, haunted his memory, laughing in mockery of his helplessness. Suddenly, the darkness thinned, revealing the barn, its once sturdy structure now warped and decayed, shuddering as if alive. "Agnes!" he called out, panic rising. "Where are you?" He stumbled forward, the lantern light flickering back on, casting ominous shadows that twisted and writhed like living creatures. He blinked, trying to pull focus, to locate any semblance of sanity in the chaos. The barn loomed larger now, a looming giant that felt both familiar and foreign. And the cries, they grew louder. He heard the boy's whimper again, clinging to him like a lifeline. "Sheriff, please. I don't want to die." The sheer gravity of the child's fear made the sheriff's heart ache, as his own simmered with dread. He scanned the darkness of the barn, his mind racing. The hearts. Agnes had said it clearly enough, but how could they find something so impossible in this maelstrom of anguish? He turned to the boy, grasping his shoulders. "Stay close. We're getting you out." But as they moved deeper, the walls of the barn seemed to close in, as if the very structure was conspiring against them. The air grew heavier, filtering memories and secrets as he staggered forward, searching for anything that might resemble hope. Then he saw her. Agnes emerged from a shadow, her face pale but fierce, like a warrior in the grip of her battle. "Sheriff. You found the heart in them, right? You have to break the cycle." "What do you mean?" he demanded, desperation clawing at his throat. "The sisters, they won't stop until they have what they need. They want you to bleed the truth you've buried. You have to confront what you did." The sheriff's breath faltered. What had he done? His mind flared with memories, each ominous and unforgiving. He had ignored the whispers of the past, cloaked them in indifference. And now it was all crashing back. "Jacob, he knows," Agnes urged, eyes wide with terror. "You have to stop him before it's too late." A measured silence fell. The shadows loomed, waiting, hungry for resolution. Faces flickered in and out, ghostly images standing on the fringes of his memory. "It will take everything," he whispered, realization colliding with dread. Behind him, the barn doors creaked ominously, pushing the air thick with the impending confrontation. It felt like the moment before a storm, electrifying and terrifying all at once. Footsteps echoed ominously, the unmistakable sound of Jacob approaching, bathed in an aura of malice. The sheriff felt a lump in his throat as he braced himself. Would he be strong enough to face the truth, risk everything to save the boy and stop the specters? Jacob's voice curled around him, low and biting. "You think you can hide forever? They will claim you. And when that moment comes, you'll wish you never awakened the past." The sheriff's heart raced, the air thick with looming dread. He could almost taste the truth on his tongue, bitter, familiar, and raw. And then, as if the world itself held its breath, he stepped forward, ready to confront the shadows of his past, knowing full well that only the raw, unfiltered truth could save them now. But as he pushed his way into the suffocating darkness, he felt a presence beside him, a familiar warmth. Was it hope, or had he miscalculated once again? Would unveiling his past save them all, or would it bind their fates to the horrors that lingered just out of sight? The moment he stepped further into the darkness, the air thickened like molasses, wrapping around him with a clammy chill. The faint flicker of the lantern cast wavering shapes on the walls, and the shadows seemed to ripple with a life of their own, taunting him with snippets of lost memories. "Sheriff, hurry!" Agnes's voice broke through the suffocating silence, filled with urgency. She darted ahead, her figure almost spectral in the gloom that he followed, heart pounding like a war drum, each beat underscored by the dread that clung to him. "Agnes! What do we do?" "Confront Jacob." She shot back, haunted eyes pleading. "He has the key." Jacob, with every passing minute, the weight of that name pressed heavier. The child's voice echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of innocence at risk. His own failures at protecting the town gnawed at his gut. They couldn't leave the boy to face this alone. As they moved deeper, a gust of wind rustled the hay, sending a shiver down his spine. A figure loomed at the far end of the barn, tall and dark, camouflaged in the deepening shadows. It was Jacob, standing like a thundercloud ready to crack open. "You think you can save him?" Jacob's voice dripped with mockery, each word curling into the sheriff's ears like barbed wire. "You'll wish you had stayed away." The sheriff's chest tightened. "What do you want, Jacob? What truth do you think you can drag from me?" He wasn't prepared for the surge of anger that unfurled in Jacob's gaze. "Your truth. It's suffocating you. The moment you buried it, it started to fester." The shadows that writhed in the barn took on shapes, morphing into twisted faces that lingered between the living and the dead. The sisters. Their laughter echoed through the rafters, drowning his thoughts in a river of panic. "Stop!" he shouted, gripping the lantern as if it were a weapon. "I want to let you take us." "Let us?" Jacob sneered. "You hold the key, Sheriff. All this time, you've been living in denial. You've been hiding. And now, they come for you." The shadows thickened, encroaching on them, hungry and insatiable. The sheriff felt the walls pressing inward, each heartbeat amplified, the air growing heavier. "Agnes, stay close," he urged, the terror hammering through him as darkness surged forward, spilling into the spaces between them. She reached out, fingers brushing against his arm. "You must let it go. Talk to him, let it out." He took a deep breath, chest rising painfully. "What do you know about the sisters?" The words fell from his lips like stones, each one weighted with regret, the laughter morphed into wails, the torment of the past unearthing itself. Jacob's eyes turned wild, fierce with a glimmer of truth. "They're not just spirits, they're a reminder of what you failed to protect, a testament to your guilt." Pain shot through him, each word a jab, each memory a blow. "I wanted to save them. I tried. I was too late." "Exactly," Jacob snapped. "And now they are coming for you." The shadows closed in, darkness swallowing them whole. The barn let out a creak, a mournful sigh that echoed like the death knell of dreams. "Face your past, Sheriff," Jacob roared, anger mixing with an unexpected pulse of fear. The energy spiraled, raw and explosive, crackling like a live wire. The sheriff clutched the lantern, heart racing. "What must I do?" The question hung in the air, a desperate plea for redemption, for clarity amidst the chaos. "Let them know the truth," Jacob shouted, eyes blazing like embers. "Or they will take everything from you." And in that moment, the truth danced before him, both horrifying and liberating. Would he dare to wield it? Amidst the rising storm of shadows, He knew he stood on the edge of a precipice. As the world swirled around him, blurring the line between the past and present, he felt the weight of decisions mounting. Would facing the truth reclaim their lives, or plunge them into deeper darkness? The specters surged, pulling him into their grip, and in that heartbeat, the sheriff braced himself for the reckoning. Would he find the courage to break the silence, or would the shadows claim him with each truth sealed in a casket of his making? The lantern flickered violently as the shadows lunged forward, grasping for him, clawing at the edges of his sanity. He felt Agnes's grip tighten on his arm, her breath shallow and quick, each gasp a reminder that they were in this together. The weight of the moment bore down on him, an anchor dragging him into uncertainty. "Sheriff!" Jacob's voice boomed, deep and resonant, echoing off the walls of the barn like a death toll. "They want to tell you their story. But you're too afraid to listen." Fear coiled like a serpent in the sheriff's gut. What if he uncovered secrets better left buried? What if the whispers of the past unleashed a torrent that could drown them all? The cries of the sisters rang in his ears. He could almost see their faces forming in the shadows, innocent and pleading, haunted. I want to let you do this to us." He yelled, his own voice trembling. "Do what?" Jacob stepped closer, his figure blurring as the lantern's light swayed. "You're the one keeping secrets. The truth is what sets you free, Sheriff. Don't you feel it? They want you to remember." Agnes squeezed his arm again, her eyes burning with determination. "You have to confront your guilt, Sheriff. This is the only way to save Jacob." The mention of the boy jolted him awake. He couldn't let fear bind him. His heart raced, pounding against every memory he dreaded. His stomach clenched, each recollection a knife twisting deeper. "How can I?" he croaked, his voice barely rising above the whispers swirling in the darkness. "What if confronting it means losing everything? Everything you think you have is already lost." Jacob shot back, the shadows around him deepening like a thick fog. "You're living a lie, Sheriff. And lies kill faster than any specter." In that cluttered moment, clarity flickered an ember in the pitch of fear. He needed to break the chains of the past. "What do you want me to do?" He felt like a drowning man, begging for a lifeline. "Speak their names," Jacob urged. "Bring their stories into the light. The truth will shatter the chains that bind you." A whirlwind of images flooded his mind, the laughing sisters running through the fields, their wagon swaying beneath the summer sun, and ultimately, the moment they vanished, swallowed by an abyss of regret. He had carried their absence like a stone in his pocket, heavy and cold. Suddenly, he felt a rush of determination wash over him, a warmth trickling through the void. "Mary Ruth," he began, his voice trembling but rising steadily. "I can't forget you. I can't continue to pretend nothing happened." The shadows recoiled, their assault slowing as the names echoed through the barn. "I should have protected you," he pleaded, anger mingled with sorrow. "I wasn't there when it mattered." A gust of wind swirled through the barn, stripping some of the darkness away. The faces of the sisters began to emerge, ethereal and fragile, caught between realms. Their eyes held a longing that pierced through his soul, raw with aching hope and demand for acknowledgement. Jacob watched, a flicker of approval dancing in his eyes. "Keep going, Sheriff. It's only the beginning." He felt the truth surge up, propelled by grief and guilt. "You were taken from this world, but I will not let your story die with you. I will find justice for you." The shadows twisted, converging as the sisters began to step forward, their figures becoming clearer, yet still cloaked in mystery. The barn seemed to tremble, the very essence of the place alive with the weight of their pain. "Face your shadows," Jacob yelled, his words pulling the sheriff deeper into a reckoning that felt inevitable, but an underlying dread lurked, a shroud whispering that there was more yet to confront. They had awakened a storm of memories, but the hardest truths remained hidden, waiting for a moment of reckoning. As the shadows began to twist, the realization hit him hard. What if the truth that loomed at the edge of his consciousness was darker than he ever imagined? The lantern flickered one last time, light battling against the engulfing darkness. He felt time bend. Stretched taut between the past and present, as the very air crackled alive around him. "Agnes, what's coming?" He gasped, turning to her, desperation palpable in his voice. She stared ahead, eyes wide with dread. "I don't know, but I think we've only just begun to unearth the real horror." And with that final chill gripping his spine, the shadows surged forward once more, silhouetting the barn in a veil thick with anticipation. Would they reveal the horrors that had lingered too long, or would the truth prove to be more than he could bear? The shadows whispered secrets, twisting and beckoning with every flicker of the lantern. The air grew thicker, charged with a tension that felt almost electric. Sheriff Hawkins' heart pounded louder, syncing with the rhythm of the ghosts that echoed through the barn. "Break the cycle." Jacob's voice rang out like a clarion call. "This is your moment. Unshackle yourself." Hawkins felt Agnes squirm beside him, even her unyielding strength was tested. He had plunged into the abyss, and the realization had set in unearthing the past might mean confronting a dark truth he had long buried. The figures of Mary and Ruth, still swathed in mystery, leaned closer, their expressions shifting from haunting to something resembling hope. He swallowed hard, the lump in his throat growing. "You were my responsibility. Why did I turn away?" The lantern's glow flickered violently, revealing more of their anguish-ridden faces. "We waited for you," echoed Ruth's voice, soft and chilling, as if trapped between realms. The shadows sensed his turmoil, swirling as if eager to draw him deeper. Anxiety gripped him, the sensation of being watched echoed through the rafters, as if every beam in the barn were tethered to those pleas. "What do you need from me?" he rasped, his voice a fragile thread in the growing dark. The dark forces around him throbbed with a pulse, a heartbeat weaving through the fabric of his fear. "Find the truth, Sheriff," Jacob shouted. "Confront the pain, feel it. Only then can it be unleashed." A sudden gust rushed in, sweeping through the barn. Papers scattered, the remnants of the past swirled. Old letters. Photos. Fragments of a life lost. He caught a glimpse of wallpaper scrawled with the dates of the sisters' disappearance, the memories embossed in every line. With every breath, the shadows pressed closer, demanding acknowledgement. "Forgive yourself." Agnes's voice cracked. "You're not the boy who couldn't save them anymore." "Not yet," he countered, clenching his jaw. He felt a prick of frustration bloom inside him. How could he forgive when every turn led back to guilt? But just as despair threatened to consume him, he heard the swirl of laughter again, innocent and playful. It enveloped him, catching him off guard like a burst of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The sisters were not merely victims, they had light, they had joy. A life worth remembering. "Mary, Ruth," he breathed, pulling them into his embrace of truth. "I will not hide from your story. I'm here. I promise." He took a step forward, the shadows quivering in response. Suddenly, a deafening silence fell upon the barn, the air so thick it felt like it could tear. All movement halted, and for one electric moment, Hawkins faced the sisters directly. Their ethereal forms pulsed with an intensity that dispelled the darkness, revealing a path that would lead him deeper into the unknown. But then the shadows converged again, darker and more sinister, swirling violently. The air crackled as dread crept back into the space, thickening with an unspeakable horror. "What is this?" Agnes cried, stepping back. "What's happening?" "I don't know. I don't." Hawkins' breath hitched as he realized the truth. Beneath the clutches of remorse and sorrow still lurked something sinister that had reached far beyond his control. The faces of Mary and Ruth distorted, their eyes filling with an urgency that pierced through him. "Beware what sleeps below." Jacob's voice now trembled with urgency. "The light has revealed too much too soon." He felt a tremor vibrate through the very bones of the barn, as if the darkness itself shuddered in fear of the truth. Hawkins grasped Agnes's arm tightly, letting the warmth of her presence ground him. But the dread lurked, a ghost of fear gnawing at the edges of his mind, whispering terrible things. What lay beyond the threshold of their past? Could the truth they unearthed lead to catastrophic consequences? The lantern flickered again, and Hawkins knew, deep inside, that the real horror, the unspeakable terror that had lingered all these years, was about to crawl back into the light. He was on the brink of discovering not just the sisters' fate, but his own crippling secret that tied them all together, and as shadows surged, hearts pounding against the relentless tide of fear, Hawkins wondered, could he bear to face what lay in wait within the depths of his own lost memories? The air in the barn thickened, every breath feeling heavy with dread and anticipation. Sheriff Hawkins stood at the precipice of horror, the wall of shadows vibrating with energy that pulled at his very core. Agnes' grip was warm and steady on his arm, her wide eyes reflecting fear and determination as the shapes around them twirled in chaotic disarray. "You have to face your truth," she urged, her voice cracking like ice under pressure. With a deep breath, Hawkins felt the weight of his guilt, 2 innocent lives lost, forever bound to his careless decisions. "Mary Ruth," he whispered, his heart pounding against the cold grasp of the past. "I failed you." As those words hung in the air, the darkness writhed, reacting to his acknowledgement, whispering secrets of the crimes left unspoken. Suddenly, a surge of energy flooded the barn, and the lantern flickered wildly, shooting beams of light like lances into the dark corners. Jacob's voice roared through the chaos. "Don't hide, Sheriff. They want you. Give them what they seek." Hawkins steadied himself, muscles taut, fists clenched. This moment was pivotal, the juncture where guilt either swallowed him whole or propelled him forward. "I let fear dictate my inaction. I didn't protect you, and for that, I'm sorry." The shadows convulsed, the figures of Mary and Ruth drawing closer, their faces shifting between sorrow and fierce longing. "Tell us what happened," Agnes cried, pressing against him as if they could withstand the tempest together. The visages of the sisters began to clarify, shimmering like candlelight breaking through the fog. "They know our names," Mary's voice echoed, its timbre haunting yet sweet. "We were forgotten, alone," as cries grew louder, swirling in a tumult, a pulse of light ignited within Hawkins. "I remember," he shouted, tears pricking his eyes, memories flooding back like a tide washing over a shore. "The last time I saw you, I was too late. I never believed your laughter would be silenced." The shadows faltered, drifting back slightly, giving prominence to the glimmers of hope rising from the sisters' ethereal forms. "Yes," Ruth urged gently, her voice softer now. "Remember our joy, remember us alive." Around them, the darkness frothed with an energy all its own, bubbling and flickering. It felt like a storm about to break, an avalanche of truth ready to sweep away the weight of his silence. Hawkins clenched his jaw, steeling himself against the turmoil. "I was so ashamed of my inability to protect you, so scared to confront the memories. But I see it now," he shouted, the lash of pain curling around his heart. "I wasn't just afraid of losing you, I was terrified of losing what little innocence I had left." A shiver worked through the shadows, they danced, restless. "Speak their names." Jacob's voice snapped Hawkins back to urgency. "Give them the justice they deserve. Rachel. Sarah." The sheriff shouted, releasing a floodgate of emotions he kept shackled. "Your laughter may have vanished, but your truth lives within me." With each name, the shadows recoiled, as if raw energy coursed through the fabric of the air, revealing flickers of light among the darkness. Hawkins felt their collective anticipation, the restless spirits urging him forward as if to pull the truth from the depths. In that breathless moment, he knew what they needed. "I failed to protect my community. In the chaos, I blamed myself. I refused to see the signs, the darkness that threatened us all. But I will not run anymore." As those echoing words tumbled out, the atmosphere crackled, electricity radiating out into the barn. Where once there was despair, hope ignited, effervescent like dawn breaking after a harrowing night. The walls pulsed in acknowledgement, a resurrection for the sisters and their stolen futures that had haunted the townsfolk for too long. The shadows began to surge, but this time, the sheriff stood firm, shoulders squared, feeling the weight of their plight. You were my responsibility, his voice a mixture of anger and resolve, and though I failed, I will fight for you. The truth will not be buried any longer. With that proclamation, a wave of light erupted from the depths of the barn, cascading through the caverns of night as the shadows seemed to hang back, receding into oblivion. Mary and Ruth smiled through tears, their faces shining with grace they hadn't felt in decades. They were finally heard. In this moment, Hawkins understood it wasn't vengeance they sought, but acknowledgement. The sweet taste of justice mingled with the bittersweet essence of grief. Suddenly, the figures of the sisters shimmered, transforming from specters into glowing orbs of light. They hovered above the sheriff and Agnes like benevolent spirits, their smiles radiating warmth and acceptance. The chilling grasp of guilt began to melt away, replaced with compassion. "We forgive you," Mary whispered, her voice resonating deep within him. "Now, be our voice. Tell our story, and you shall find closure." Tears stung Hawkins' eyes, not from fear, but from clarity. The path ahead was lit, not just for him, but for the community that had borne the scars of their silence too long. As the last remnants of darkness fled, leaving only shimmering silence, he felt a sense of peace settle across the barn, the light washed over everything. And in that final moment, he vowed a promise to remember, to honor, and above all, to never forget the sisters who had transformed their fear into an enduring legacy. With a deep breath, Sheriff Hawkins stepped out of the shadows and into the light, finally ready to face the world outside with open arms, armed with the truth he had once feared. As the sun began to rise, illuminating the fields of Lancaster County, every soul in the community found freedom in the haunting tale of Sarah and Rachel. Their voices forever entwined in the hearts that chose to remember. And now, dear friends, this is the moment where I need your help. Please, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. I want to hear all your thoughts and theories, so flood the comments section with your reactions. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Your support is crucial.